So tonight we're ending our series on the art of spiritual conversations. We're on the last one of this series, and it's the art of welcoming. And we've been learning how to build relationships with people in order to have spiritual conversations. We've talked about the art of noticing people, the art of praying, the art of listening, and those three were all about getting ready. Say, we got ready. Getting ready. It was about getting ready to have spiritual conversations. Then we had some getting started lessons. We talked about the art of asking questions, and last week was the art of loving, and tonight we're going to learn the art of welcoming. So if you brought your Bible with you, you can turn to Luke chapter 15 and verse 1 and 2, and I'm going to read the NIV version. You can read the King James. I'm sure it has the same message. Luke 15, verse 1 and 2. It says, "The tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, 'This man welcomes sinners and eats with them.'" Man. Oh, I just remember what I wanted to tell y'all earlier. As of last night, I became Rease Take Two. No, my grandson, our grandson Trey, and his wife had a baby, so we are great-grandparents now. And my daughter-in-law texted me with a candy that said Reese Take 5, and she said, "You're Reese Take 2." So we're proud of little Oakley May. She was born last night, and we're excited about getting to meet her. So this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. That's what the Pharisees had to say about Jesus. So the Pharisees, they're the religious people in Jesus' day. They're the holier-than-thou people. They live better than everybody else. They don't do anything wrong that you can see. Not that they don't do anything wrong, but they don't do anything wrong that you can see. But they said he welcomes sinners and eats with them. Let that be said of us. Let that be said of us. If it can be said of Jesus, let it be said of us. A favorite saying of mine, I used to have it on a plaque in my house, was, "There are no strangers here, only friends who haven't met." No strangers here, only friends who haven't met. When you come to KOK, we don't want you to feel like a stranger. We want you to feel like a friend. And when we meet, then we are friends from then on out. We might have been strangers at first, but then when we met, we're friends from there on out. It's hard to overemphasize the power of a genuine, warm welcome. How many agree with that? You just can't overemphasize that enough. There's power in it. There's power in a very real, warm welcome. Have you ever been somewhere before and you felt not welcomed? Or you ever walked in on a conversation that someone was having that they didn't want anybody to hear, and you're like, oh, you feel so out of place. You let me get out of here as quick as I can. I'm not welcome here. But there's power in a real warm welcome. Welcoming someone brings them from being a vulnerable outsider to being connected with others. We're going to talk about this tonight. And I'm not just talking about welcoming people at a church service, which is great. It's fantastic, and we want to do that. We want to welcome everybody that comes here. But that's not all we're talking about today. Has anybody ever watched that old TV show Cheers? Or are you too spiritual that you wouldn't? They had a theme song for Cheers, and I loved it. It said, "Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You want to be where you can see your troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name." Don't you love to go where, "Hey, Joey," they're hollering, "Hey, Joey." "Hey, Amber," they're hollering your name. Don't that feel good? When you go somewhere and everybody knows you, they're glad to see you. Welcoming provides a safe environment where wrestling with matters of faith and more than just a quick conversation is acceptable. And where you're dealing with hardships of life without being judged is allowed. It's allowed. It's what everybody needs to feel while they make their way towards Jesus. Welcoming is not the same as entertaining in your home. There's some people that are just entertainers. They can open up their home and have a party thrown together in a day. But, it's harder for others. But it's not the same thing as entertaining in your home. It's opening your heart and creating a safe place of love and acceptance wherever you might be. You can be welcoming at the grocery store, at your job, wherever. You can be welcoming, wherever you might be. And one of the most practical ways to step into welcoming is attentiveness, paying attention. Paying attention to people, listening to what they have to say. In this two-screen culture, say two screens. And this two-screen culture, giving our attention to one thing at a time is rare. You see, I've got two screens right here. I got this little one I'm changing those slides with. I got this bigger one that I'm looking at my notes on. I got one in the back. We got 4 screens going here. But we've got a two-screen culture. We're used to having screens all around us. And we've allowed multitasking to just become normal. But people don't feel welcome if you're constantly checking your phone the whole time you're talking to them. They don't feel welcome if you're allowing your mind to wander. And they don't feel welcome if you're even thinking about what you're going to say next, because they can tell you're not paying attention to what they're saying. Now, the opposite of this is also true. If you stop what you're doing and you give people your full attention, look them in the eyes, give them your attention, then they will feel welcomed by you. And when you set aside your agenda to focus on others, you're communicating that you value them. You're important to me. I value you, and I'm glad to spend time with you. That's what you're doing when you're focusing on them. When we often think of welcoming as inviting someone into your home or into your church or into your turf, your place. I'm welcoming you to my place, asking them to come to us. But Jesus turned that thought around. He turned it upside down by bringing that welcoming space into their environment, where they were. He went where they were, the woman at the well. He went to her. He didn't invite her. He didn't invite her to church. He went to where she was, her environment, and he had a welcoming attitude in her environment. Welcome is simply showing acceptance to people without any expectation of getting something in return, and we're so not used to that. We're not used to it. We always think of, what are we going to get out of it? The challenge we face sometimes is in not knowing how to welcome others, how to do it. Communicating this genuine acceptance without expecting them to do anything for me. Accepting them where they are and not saying, well, I'm going to welcome you if you'll come to church with me on Sunday. Or if you'll do this for me. We have to do it without expecting anything. Now, welcoming, it may come naturally for some people. I've known a few people like that in my life, that welcoming just came natural. Every time I saw them, their face just lit up, and I felt so welcomed and so loved. Now, some of you might know my friend Sue Matthews. I called her Sue Connor last time I made a reference to her, but that's her maiden name, Sue Matthews. And she's one of those people. I don't care where she's at, she's going to make everyone around her feel so welcome. And when I see her, it's like, oh, Larissa, oh my God, I'm so glad to see you. I'm so happy to see you. She's always like that. We've known each other for 100 years. Well, not that many, Joey. Since we were about 12 is how long we've known each other. And she's always so happy to see me. But it's not just me. Even though we're dear friends, she does that with everyone. She does it with everyone. It comes natural for her. It's just a part of her natural makeup. But for most of us, it takes a little practice and it takes some intentionality. I remember when we were younger thinking, I want to be like Sue. I want to just be so full of life and just so welcoming and happy to see everybody. And I would practice that because that wasn't really my nature. I had to work on that. You know, if I liked you, I'd be happy to see you. But if you were somebody I didn't really like, I'm not really that happy to see them. But, I've worked on it. I tried to become more like her. And it's good when you have somebody that's in your circle that you aspire to be like them. They're better than you in some areas because then that makes you want to be better. If you're always hanging around people that are beneath you because it makes you feel good to be superior, you might want to rethink that. Think of somebody that's got more than you, that's got a better job than you, that has better talents, and hang around them and learn from that and pull yourself up higher. We have to set our minds to it if we're going to be welcoming. Some key ingredients for creating a welcoming environment are common interests. That's something you have in common. Find something you have in common with somebody. If it's sports or hobbies, a job, maybe you have the same kind of job skills. Find something in common. Being real, that's another key ingredient. People can tell when you're fake. It just comes across. So don't be fake. Just be real. Food that is generously shared, that's a good thing to have when you're trying to create a welcoming environment. You share a meal, man, that always makes people feel welcome. A flexible plan. You're trying to welcome somebody. Don't be so stern about it. If they can't make it when you plan to meet, be flexible. Yeah, well, let's plan it for the next day or next week. And then fun and humor. Everything doesn't have to be so serious. Joke. Have fun. Living for God is fun. Stop shaking your head like that, Joey. Living for God is fun. So how can you become one of those people who provide this kind of welcoming atmosphere? Do you want to be one? I do. I want to be a person that provides a welcoming atmosphere. And there are 4 aspects we need to maximize. Say maximize. Thank you, Rowan. Maximize in order to be welcoming, and we're going to look at them tonight. Okay, the first one is your face. If you're happy to see me, why haven't you told your face? If you're happy and you know it, notify your face. I mean, there are people that are saying things that, are good and great, but their face is like, they're like, I don't really believe you because your face is saying something different. I was encouraging Gina about something the other night, and I was just really pumping her up, and I was saying all the right things, and she said, you need to stop. And I said, why? She said, you don't believe nothing you're saying. I said, I really do, but I'm just not feeling it right now. And it was on my face, It was not agreeing with what I was saying. If someone comes into your space and you say, oh, hey, woe is me, you're not very welcoming, are you? That's Eeyore the donkey. We don't want to be like Eeyore, but we want to be like Tigger. Biddy, the most wonderful thing about Tiggers is they're fun, right? Notify your face. It's the first impression people get when they meet you. Are you smiling or are you walking around like you just sucked on a lemon? A smile and warm eye contact go a long way in helping somebody to feel welcome. In connection with your face, your body language can also confirm or contradict how welcoming you are. If your arms are folded, you're saying, I'm closed off. You can't get in here. Or if you've got a scowl on your face, your arms are folded, you got a scowl on your face, your body language is saying, you're not welcome. Don't come over here. Or maybe you turn your back to somebody. You turn your back all the way around. And we do that sometimes when we don't want people to feel welcome. We're mad at them or something. When I don't want somebody messing with me, I turn my back because I want to be left alone. Don't mess with me. Now, I'm not talking about people I'm trying to win to the Lord. I don't do that to them. I'm talking about people I know well, my family, friends. But instead of that, instead of having a scowl and crossed arms, have a relaxed, open body language that says, I'm welcoming you. The second thing is your space, and this is the impression of openness that you show to others. Do you make people feel at ease? Look for common ground such as stages of life. What stage of life are you in? Me and Janie, we're in the older stage of our life. Amber, she's in that little young stage still. So look for something. Maybe you have similar stages of life you can talk about. If you're old enough to have grandchildren, and they are too, then you can talk about grandchildren. Look for common ground. Maybe it's hobbies. Do you like to fish? If you're a guy, do you like to hunt, play golf? Favorite sports teams, music. What kind of music do you like? You can talk about those things, find common ground. Asking open-ended questions encourages people to share their stories. And that's what you want. You want them to share their story. What I'm talking about is your space being warm and inviting. No matter where you're at, you still have a space around you. We call it personal space. Sometimes we're like, get out of my personal space. You're too close. Back up, There's a bubble here. Back away from it. You ever talk to somebody and they're too close, and you want to say, back up. But no matter where you're at, think of what will make the person you're connecting with feel most welcome. How can you make them feel welcome? The third thing is your place, and this is a physical space. Do the physical spaces you control provide a way to make people feel instantly comfortable and welcome? For example, is your place a car, your office? Wherever you're at, that's your place. The place we're talking about connecting with someone. Is there a white glove neatness there, or is it more of a casual atmosphere? Now, you don't have to worry about a white glove neatness at my place, do you, Dad? No, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to take your shoes off when you come in at my place because I got a dog, and he brings dirt in all the time, and I got my dad and my husband and me, we're in Tyra, we're out in the garden getting dirt on our feet, so just knock your dirt off and come on in. You don't have to worry about white glove neatness, I can promise you. Because we live there. We live in that place. We're busy living there, not busy keeping it like a museum. It's comfortable. So another example is the TV or music loud and distracting in your place, or is it something that might break the ice? If you've got a ball game on and you're trying to create some camaraderie there with someone that likes ball games, maybe it's a good thing. Or is it distracting that they can't hardly hear what you're saying because it's so loud and nobody's watching it, Sharing food and drink with others in your place can help build community. It can help it. Now, the fourth thing is your grace. Welcoming grace is willing to walk alongside others and admit you don't have all the answers and allow faith and life to be messy. How many of you know life gets messy? It gets really messy. And it gets really messy, and if we don't have the right thing in our lives to turn to, it can even get messier. I heard a video not long ago. A preacher was preaching. He was talking about the mess that oxen make, oxen or cattle or whatever you have. And he said, one preacher said, he was telling about different people that were coming up to him, these new people. They're new, in the church, and they make a mess. He had some come up to him and said it was a same-sex couple, and they said, we want to know if we can get our baby dedicated. And he said, get your baby dedicated, how y'all live? He said, it's a mess. And then another one came up to me and said, now, Pastor, we don't smoke weed on the fast, right? And he was like, you don't smoke weed on the fast? What? And then another one was coming up to him. There were all these terrible scenarios, that are going on. And he said, this other preacher said, give me 10 people that are living right, that are living for God. And you can take the 1,000 that aren't doing right. And just give me the 10. He said, I tell you what, you can have the 10. All you 10 that's right, and y'all just going to die and go to heaven. And give me the 1,000. Give me the 1,000 that wants to love God, wants to change their life, because oxen are messy. People are messy. Life is messy. You're going to have all kinds of people come into this place. You may have same-sex couples. You may have transgender people. You may have all kinds of people that are going to come into this place. You're going to have people that use drugs, that drink alcohol. But we want to have a welcoming place for them, to allow them to find God where they're at. Because it will allow you to take your relationships deeper, and it will allow you to let conversations about God happen naturally. Now, prayer is an important part of welcoming, but especially in the grace part. When inviting someone to spend time with you, pray before, after, and during your time with them. Now, let me clarify this. This is with people that don't believe like you. This isn't like Janie and Biddy talking. This is what people that don't believe like you, don't know anything about really praying or anything. So people that believe differently that you're building a relationship with in order to start a conversation with, a spiritual conversation. So the stuff that we're talking and learning about tonight isn't about relationships with people that believe like you. It's not about your friends and people you go to church with. It's not about those kind of communications. So I'm going to say this again. When you're inviting someone to spend time with you, pray before, after, and during your time with them. And not out loud. Not out loud with people who aren't used to that. God hears you, and that's all that matters. Sometimes we want to say a prayer out loud in front of people we're working with just to let them know we know how to pray. And sometimes that's not what we need to do. Sometimes it is what we need to do. But sometimes it's not. Just use discernment while you're together and silently ask God for wisdom and guidance and discernment on what needs to be said and what needs to be left unsaid. For now. Because there are some things that need to be left unsaid, right? The Lord may show you something about someone while you're talking to them. That doesn't mean you need to spit it out to them. It doesn't mean it. You ask for direction and discernment on what I need to say and what I don't need to say. Of these 4 aspects of welcoming, only one is restricted to a place. The others we carry with us wherever we go. In other words, we can have a welcoming place wherever we are. We can have it at Wendy's, at Taco Bell, at Hobby Lobby, at work, at the playground. We can have a welcoming place wherever we are. I don't want to be unfriendly or unwelcoming. There are very few people that want that. Well, there are some, because I know some that are grumpy and they don't want anybody around them at any time. But most people don't want that. Wouldn't it be a tragedy for Christians to be known as rude or cold or unwelcoming? And yet we don't always invite others in, especially those who believe differently than us. And at the heart of it, our barriers to welcoming are fear-based. Say fear-based. We're going to take a look at some of these barriers and see how we can overcome them. Busyness. We've talked about this already, but the words "I'm busy" are often code for, look how important I am. I'm busy. Look how important I am. How much of your busyness is driven by a desire for significance? You want to be known. You want to be seen. Do you fear missing out on an experience or an event? Do you have FOMO? Anybody know what FOMO is? Fear of missing out. It takes humility and intention to slow down and make space to welcome others. Take a good look at your schedule for a minute in your mind. Think about it. What have you said yes to that's keeping you from taking time for people who need to know about God's love? Because sometimes the best yes is a no. There's a book written about that. It's called The Best Yes. And what it's about is saying no to something so you will have time and energy to say yes to other things. If you say yes to everything that comes around, yes, I'll do that. Oh, pick me. I'll volunteer. Yes, I'll take care of that. I'll do that. Yes, don't worry about it. I got that. I'll do that. Then guess what happens? The next thing you know, something comes up that you would be really great at and that you would really love to do, but you're too busy because you've said yes too many times. Sometimes you have to say no so that you're available for the yes that's important. Think of what task can you delegate or simply stop doing to make more time in your schedule. So many times we try to please people all the time and we just say yes out of an obligation, or it's not really what we want, what we need to be doing. Our talents and our gifts could be better served somewhere else, but we've said yes so many times to other things that we don't even have the time to use our talents and our gifts. The second barrier is shallowness. So many of us are accustomed to surface level relationships and never get past the surface. Hello, how are you doing? I'm fine, thank you. How are you? We may wish for deeper relationships, but we're not quite sure how to get there because maybe we've been burned before. Maybe we've been hurt. Or maybe it's never been modeled for us before and we've never seen it. So we just skim the surface of relationships. And frankly, sometimes we lack relational depth our own selves. So we're afraid of taking a risk to show anyone our vulnerability, right? Because we don't want people to know we're vulnerable. And this can be a barrier to welcoming, and people can sense it. They can sense it. The third barrier is competitiveness. Now, this barrier is driven by real strong fear. It's driven by real strong fear. Afraid we won't measure up, so we always got to win. We develop this win or lose mentality. Everything's a competition. We're always trying to beat or outsmart someone in some way. And we have this competitive barrier. With this barrier, we push people away. We push them away instead of welcoming them in. It comes out in every conversation somehow because we know the truth. We're better than you. We know the truth, so we're better than you. Somehow, because we're Christians, we're better than you. It comes out in the way you act. Competition and comparison destroy any potential for community and connection. I try to tell people this about their children too, and I learned this a very long time ago. You know, when you compare people, it makes them resent the person you're comparing them to. If I say, Joey, you need to start acting more like Caleb. Look at Caleb, he's got it all together. You know, he's got on this nice starched shirt, and you're all wrinkled, looking like you just got out of a clothes basket. And you ought to start acting more like Caleb. And y'all know, I'm just using them as an example. You can see they don't have none of that stuff on that I'm talking about. But when you start doing that, you know what happens? They go off and start thinking, I can't stand Caleb. Joey goes off, I just can't stand that Caleb. They're always bragging on him, want me to be like him, you know. So the person starts resenting the person you're comparing them to. You create resentment when you compare people to others. Comparison and competition destroys the potential for connection. So before you even start a conversation with someone, let go of the need to win or the need to be right. You remember we used to say about husbands and wives, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Do you want to be right or do you want to be able to open up a spiritual conversation with this person? Just take the high road and let them think they're right. You don't have to prove anything. The fourth one goes along with that, and it's called defensiveness. When we don't have a firm foundation on our identity in Christ, we will be vulnerable to the barrier of defensiveness, and it'll push people away quicker than any other barrier. You ever seen anybody defensive? They're just walking around with a chip on their shoulder, just daring you to knock it off. They're so defensive. If you say, oh, Chelsea, you look nice tonight, you're like, what do you mean? Don't I look nice every night? You know, they're just defensive. You know, a defensiveness will create a barrier. It will push people away. To overcome this obstacle, I've got one word you really need to learn. Relax. Chill out. Just relax. Everyone is not out to get you. Everyone whispering is not talking about you. People who believe differently than you are not out to get you. They're not out to prove you wrong. They're full of fears and doubts just like you are. So take yourself less seriously. You don't have to do a 10-week Bible study the first time you meet them. You don't have to show them how much of the Bible you know, and you know way more than they do. You don't have to. Take yourself less seriously because you don't have anything to prove. The next barrier to welcoming is selfishness. The default mode of every human being, say, that's me, I'm a human being. The default mode of every human being is to ask, what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this? We fear that God is not on our side, or worse than that he's not in control. So we take things into our own hands, don't we? Even when we say we're going to give it to him. We give it to him, and then he's not working fast enough, so we take it back. And we're like, nah, I need this done faster, Lord. You're not doing quick enough. So we take it back, and then he just steps back and says, go ahead, do what you can, and I'll try to straighten your mess up later, because he knows we're going to make a mess of it. I'm saying this tonight because I'm saying we, because I'm guilty too. I'm guilty of this too. We take things into our own hands and we look out for ourselves because we know we want what's best for ourselves, right? We know we do. We often choose relationships on what we can get rather than on what we can give. If we think engaging with people who believe differently is too much work, then guess what? We won't do it. If we think it's too much work, we won't do it. Perhaps we're afraid that if we spend time and energy welcoming others, we'll miss out on good things for ourselves. But as people who are loved by God, we are called to love others and to show others the same love that He has showed us. We're called to do it. The antidote to selfishness is to serve others. That's the antidote. And here's a little known secret about serving selflessly. It brings joy. It brings joy. Did you know that if you serve unselfishly, it brings joy? How many of you have ever just done something for somebody knowing that they couldn't do anything for you in return? They couldn't do anything. You felt so good about that. It brought you so much joy. When you just discover an opportunity to serve someone selflessly, do it. Do it. Take advantage of the opportunity, because not only is it going to help the person that you're serving, it's going to bring joy to your heart. Joy. And accept people where they are. And this is such a hard one. When we're talking to people who are doing things we find offensive, things we don't like or agree with, it's tempting to focus on their bad choices. It's tempting just to zero in on that. Even though we might not look like it on the outside, we might be smiling pretty and batting our eyes on the outside, but on the inside, we're making judgments. On the inside, we're summing it all up. We're making judgments about them. We might even be holding them in contempt. This sets up barriers that keeps us from welcoming. By judging people, even if it's subtly, we're playing God. Even if it's just a little bit, we're playing God by judging them. By not accepting people where they are, we're communicating that we don't trust God, we don't trust you to get them where He wants them to go. He'll get them there in His time if we trust Him. But so many times we'll judge them or we'll push them because we don't trust God. But we've got to learn to trust Him. I want to look at Jesus' conversation with the woman at the well. And Jesus, He interacted with her, and she was full. Say full. She was full of moral failures. Full of them. But He didn't get hung up on that. He didn't get hung up on that. He found a point of common interest first, water. That was their common interest that they had there at the well. They were both there to get water. He found something they had in common. Then He responded casually to the woman's questions in the conversation that unfolded. And by the time He brought up her current sinful lifestyle, He did so with so much grace, and He allowed her to change the subject to something she felt more comfortable with. At the woman at the well, Jesus modeled the art of welcoming for us. He showed us how to do it. One of the keys to avoid judging people is to take time to listen to them. Because once you hear more of a person's story and their situation, it becomes so much easier to feel compassion for them. Right? If you see somebody and you don't know anything about their story, you're real quick to size it all up in a nutshell. You know, oh yeah, I feel this way about her and that one, and I know how blah, 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 and you got it all figured out. But then when you sit down and listen to their story, you're like, wow, I didn't know that about them. I didn't know they have been through such tragedy, such hurt, such stuff they've overcome. They're a lot stronger than I thought. It becomes easier to have a heart for them. A simple phrase like, tell me more about that. It creates a space for the person to feel welcome and accepted. When you open up your heart to someone who believes differently than you, you become an ally. You become their ally, and you're no longer an enemy. You're their friend. You're an ally. And you provide a safe place to explore conversations about life and about faith. That's where we're trying to get with this. In a world full of strangers, estranged from their neighbors and friends. How many of you even know your neighbors? More than I expected. More than I expected. You know why people don't know their neighbors very well today? Because we stay on our computers. We stay in front of our TVs. People used to sit on their porches and talk to their neighbors when they were outside. I'm sure Dad can remember that. Can't you, Dad? When you sit on your porch and your neighbors would come by and you talk to them. But today we live in a world of strangers. We're estranged from our friends. We're estranged from our family and our God. And we witness a painful search for a welcoming place where life can be lived without fear and where community can be found. People are really searching for that. They really are. Welcoming is primarily the creation of a space where a stranger can enter and become a friend instead of an enemy. Where he can come, and if he has a different point of view, he can still be a friend. They can agree without being disagreeable. Jesus rubbed shoulders with people of all walks of life. Did you know that? He didn't just stick with the religious people. He didn't do that. He was intentional about keeping his environment open to people with baggage of all kinds. All kinds. We all long for places to feel like home. Even if they're not home, we just like places that feel like home. Amber told me once when she came to my house, she said, "This feels like going to my mama's house." I said, that made me feel good because you know what? She felt welcome. She felt at home. She felt like she could take her shoes up and put her feet on the couch. And that's the way I want people to feel. We long for places that feel like home, even if it's not our home. In those kinds of places, we experience what it means to feel valued, what it means to be known, and what it means to be loved. You know, when someone can look at you and say, I see you, Chelsea. That means I understand. I know you. I value you. And we need to create that with people. Whether you've welcomed somebody by inviting them to eat a meal with you or by getting into a casual conversation in a break room at work or by gladly entering their home, the spiritual result of the interaction, say spiritual results. It must be something that's left in the hands of God. We don't control the spiritual results. We just create the space, the welcome space. Sometimes just being together and building a friendship has a greater net outcome than anything you could say about the Bible or your relationship with God. Sometimes just building that friendship. And then when they're in trouble, when they need to know, they need God, you're the first person they're going to come to, and you're ready to lead them. And every time you get in a conversation with somebody, it doesn't have to be about the Bible or about God. You could talk about fishing. You could talk about shopping. You could talk about school. You could talk about all kinds of things. Just build relationships. Build them. And I'm not suggesting that sharing truths about the Bible or being upfront about your faith are not important. They are important. But without a welcoming environment, people will not be as easily enabled to receive those kinds of words. You've got to have that welcoming environment to begin with. Your job, say my job, and my job is to create a safe place to allow others to honestly explore matters of faith with you as a true friend. You can't become a friend if you shut down the conversation before it even gets started. You meet somebody and you start quoting Acts 2:38 and telling them what all we expect here at this church. You shut it down before it even gets started. So allow yourself to make a friend first. Where it goes from there is between them and God. You might not get to have that spiritual conversation in the first few conversations that you have with somebody. You've got to go through the art of noticing. You've got to go through the art of listening. You've got to go through the art of praying. Then you've got to use the tools you've been given to get to that place where they are open and you're open enough to have a spiritual conversation. Then after you have those conversations, guess what? You can't save a soul. You can't save a single soul. It's not up to you. It's up to Him. You can't convert a soul. You can't convict a soul. You can befriend them, and then it's up to him. Only he can do that. And no man can come to him unless he is drawn by the Spirit. No matter how much conversation you have with them, unless they're drawn by the Spirit, they cannot come to God. So can we create a welcoming environment at KOK and in our space, in our homes, at our jobs, with our grace? Can we use our grace to create a welcoming space? I believe we can, don't you? And this is the handout for this week. I forgot to pass it out. Somebody want to take those